Hello, and here's another one of my occasional, well, reasonably frequent videos around learning and how to get the most of it. This one's about times to reflect. Don't get too concerned about the thought, at least, that this might be a bit conceptual, a little bit theoretical. It's absolutely not. It's totally embedded in reality because if we don't reflect, and by reflection, I mean get beyond thinking. Thinking thoughts is all very well, but reflecting is about deliberately, consciously, and without distraction, thinking about not just what's happened, but how to get the most from it and how it relates to past practices and actions and experiences. So reflection is deeper than just thinking. So here they are, three forms, if you like, of reflection, but really they're about times when to do it. I'll go into each of these in a little bit of depth. This is not a long video. And the first of these is reflection before action. So cue one hopes. The next slide, here we go. Do you like my pretend St. Ives where we were recently behind me? So reflection before action. Reflection very often I find when I work with people about these issues, reflection is thought of as something we do after something's happened, almost the exclusion of any other form of reflection. Well, I don't believe that's necessarily the case. I think we subconsciously reflect before action. It's in there. We're thinking about, when did I do this last? How did it go? Or how's it going to go? What's going to happen? How am I going to feel? How do I want to get the most from this? Or am I pushing this a bit too far? Is it more typical that we just think, well, something's going to happen? Well, reflecting before action is, for me, the most significant of the three forms of reflection or times for reflection. Because if we reflect significantly, thoroughly, before something happens, then we're more ready for it. It takes us less by surprise. We can anticipate some of the issues that may well arise. And importantly, we can influence, perhaps at least, some of the actions and experiences we're about to have. So reflection before action means that we're more likely than if we hadn't reflected before action to get something significant in terms of value from what we're about to do. That could be learning value, using something we've learned before in this situation that we're anticipating, or it could just be being ready, more ready for something happening than we'd otherwise be had we not reflected before something happens. Cue number two. Oh, it's working. This is good news. Reflection during action. This is not easy very often because whatever that action is, whatever that experience is, it could be difficult. It could be emotional. It could involve us facing challenging situations. And when that's happening, it's very hard to say, okay, I'll just park this challenging emotional experience I'm having and think about what I'm learning from it. That's not easy. The value of reflecting in advance will come from, as I said earlier, the recognition of the experience that we prepared for and hopefully getting the most from it. But reflecting during action is not easy, and I won't pretend that it is. However, sometimes it is easy. Sometimes we're in a meeting and we can watch people, we can observe, we can critically analyze others. So the experience that we're in doesn't always preclude us from reflecting significantly and with value while it's happening. The key thing is to try and do that and to recognize that sometimes those efforts are not possible. So we come to what I said earlier is, for many, the only form of reflection people recognize once something's happened. The trouble with reflection after action is you can't change anything. You're not preparing yourself for something that's already happened. You can't alter that. You can't make it better. You can't in any way influence it. What you can do, of course, is you can draw value from it. You can reflect on how well it went. Sometimes we're brave enough, even the things that didn't go as well as we wish they had. So reflection after action has a value, and it ought to, if done well, prepare us for the next time something happens when we reflect before the next action, which might allow us to use, for instance, the learning that we're reflecting upon after something's happened. So they all mesh together somehow. So I'm not dismissing reflection after action. But it's happened, it's gone, you can't influence it, but we can draw the value from it. So I hope there's some value there from thinking about not just one form of reflection, but of three. So the question is, what will you do differently as a result of this? It's all about learning. You might have acquired some new knowledge here in these few minutes. Are you going to use it? Are you going to put this into practice? Are you going to find that undistracted space to think in advance of something happening about how you might learn or use your learning from the last time you did whatever it was? Are you going to try at least when something's happening to think about what you're getting from it live in the moment when it's happening, when it has most impact? And will you in turn, and there's value, I've never been knocking it, reflect afterwards so that you can draw the value and learning from something? So 3 forms of reflection. Give it a go. Always interested to hear from people if you want to get in touch. So I hope that helps. I've certainly found it a very valuable means of reflecting on how I might best use all 3 of these.